Hey, everybody, and welcome to today's core developer meeting. It's number 76, and this one might be a short one today. We're going to see because we only have a few agenda topics. So the first one is the Istanbul hard fork community call. Annette Rokova from the Ethereum Magicians came up with the idea to have a Istanbul hard fork community call next Wednesday at 2 p.m. UTC, so the exact same time as the core developer call that's on Fridays, but this would be on Wednesday. And it would be a live stream where various people involved in the Istanbul hard fork, various core devs and community members and others would be on for a little bit for questions about Istanbul and just kind of talking about the hard fork process and pretty much whatever else we want to do, we can kind of make it what we want. So we're open to suggestions. If you go to Magicians, you can leave suggestions there. Anybody who's normally on the all core dev calls is welcome to be on the actual call rather than just um, sign in to the live stream. And we'll be taking questions on the Ethereum Magicians forum and on Reddit and probably on Twitter. So we'll have like a hashtag or something. So we'll see how this goes. And yeah, that's pretty much all for that announcement. Are there any comments or questions about it? Okay. Next up on the agenda, we have the Ice Age hard fork. And there was a comment made both in Zoom and on the issues page for the Core Dev Meeting 76 that show the EIP and the proposed meta EIP. So we'll discuss today if we want to go forward with that. I'll go ahead and hand it off to James, our hard fork coordinator, to have him kind of walk through it and all that stuff.
Not
Oh,
have sound on the YouTube stream.
you do not, or you do?
Yeah, sorry, I just noticed as well. I'm working on it. Hudson, if this is your Zoom call, it might be worth just like recording the Zoom. I feel
I
like
did.
with the like the Mac OS Catalina thing, there's like a bunch of permissions that have changed. Um,
Oh,
so I think this is what's kind of screwing it up. So yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to get it fixed.
that's okay. I can just post this later on YouTube. Um, so if you get it fixed, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. I'll just tell the chat that we're going to do it that way. Let me just grab the chat real quick and have a post from there. That's weird that it's not doing it. Was it doing it for the song or not?
I think it was working for the song, but for some reason it's like the whole audio capture thing. So I've enabled all the permissions,
Oh,
but
oh, oh. In OBS on the
yep,
audio thing in the middle,
yep.
there is, let me pull it up real quick. There should be like a little box looking thing by the mute button. And if you open that and go to properties, you can switch the device.
Okay, let me check that.
It looks like a little speaker icon.
Yeah, so it's the right device. I don't know. It feels like there's something that just broke since the update. So,
Okay,
anyways, I'll keep looking into it. But yeah, sorry about that.
no problem. Yeah, we can just put the recording up. It's not an issue. All right, James, go right ahead.
Okay. So we have a couple things to get through today as far as the difficulty bomb and a hard fork related to the difficulty bomb happens. To just intro for the community inside of the retargeting algorithm that keeps block time stable for Ethereum. There is something called the Ice Age built in that after every 100,000 blocks it increments up, and at some point it starts to affect block times, which has been happening on the network for the last 3 weeks about. And so to update that, we have to push back the Ice Age in the clients, which is fairly trivial to do. And so that's kind of where we are today. We can start with EIP 2384, which is let's get consensus on how far to push the difficulty bomb back. We discussed pretty extensively on Gitter, but I'd like to just hear from people here that we have an option of pushing it all the way back, which is 9,000 blocks back, or what we did last time was 3,000 blocks back, 3 million blocks back. This time it would be 5 million blocks back, which is about as far back as we can go.
James,
Yep.
Can I just interject a bit?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, because there's been some discussion about this, and as far as I can see, there are a couple of different suggestions that have been made. One is to make a rewind, kind of like we've done before, which is what 2384 is. Other proposals have been to replace the difficulty calculation with something else, maybe something linear, or whatever. It's been kind of vague, but something else. And a third suggestion has been to basically immediately remove the difficulty bomb. And before we discuss the particulars of 2384, I would just like to hear if there's anyone present who feels that no, we should not do it like we've done previously. We should instead do one of these other more, not done before options.
So I guess I would just like to add a bit of information to that. Essentially, the problem here is not that the difficulty that we need to decide what to do with the difficulty, rather that the Ice Age is really, really coming really fast, which means that ideally it would be really nice if we had a solution that we can roll out at the beginning of January. And that means that given that there's a holiday season, Christmas season, whatever in between, we can't really expect people to be available starting from maybe 1 or 2 weeks from now, which means that if we want to have any update for the Ethereum network, we need to kind of release next week, so as soon as possible. And because of this, there are kind of 3 possible solutions on what we can do with the Ice Age. The question is, which is riskier and which is less risky? Because from my perspective, up until now, we've delayed the Ice Age twice. So delaying it a 3rd time is kind of like a no-brainer effort. So just do the exact same thing that we did previously, modify 1 parameter and done. Whereas with the other 2, we have the question mark of how involved it is, and does it pose any risks that we haven't been thinking about? So I guess that's kind of what we need to discuss.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just wanted to check if there's someone who wants to voice the opinion that we should do one of the other options.
I had a question about that, Martin. Would it be possible for us to roll it back now, because that's the one that we know works, so we wouldn't have to do testing on it, I'm guessing. So I guess 2 questions. If we do things like disable it or change it to a linear formula, how much testing would we have to do? And then second question, could we, in theory, do a change to the difficulty bomb after the rollback? So we have this hard fork, and then after it, we do another change to the difficulty bomb, say, in whatever Berlin is.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely change the difficulty formula at the next hard fork whenever we want. Regarding how much testing, yeah, we would probably have to do quite a lot of testing. But the thing is, if we do it like we've done previously, it's pretty easy to generate tests for this. I mean, that EP popped up and a couple of hours later, I had produced test vectors and guessed it, and I think it was Bisu or another mind, one of them verified that yes, it got the same result. It was very trivial to produce test cases for that one. If we replace with something else, it's going to be need more thorough testing. Yeah, I get the feeling we can start on the discussion that James started on.
And I also want to remember that in the Gitter chat, it came up that the Ice Age is also somewhat of a changes to that should also be brought to the community a little bit more than we have with this opportunity, because we have to act more quickly to get a change out. So doing what we've done previously is already what the community has approved. And any further changes should take some more time and some polling to make sure we understand the values of everyone.
I think that's a good point. The one thing I'd add to that is if we're changing the formula, we probably don't need community support, because that doesn't change the fact that we do have a bomb or an Ice Age. So I think that, yeah, I think that if we change the formula, it wouldn't matter, but if we take it out, it would matter.
So I'm curious to hear if anyone who, if it's sufficient 2384, or if we should roll back more because of this period thingy, which seems to have a further accelerated effect. Yeah.
Can we actually do that? Is if we're going back 9 million, that is the beginning of it, we would start putting negative numbers.
2384 does not go back 9 million.
It sets the fake block to 9 million and rolls it back 4 million.
Yeah.
So if we were to do the current proposal of 9.2, it would put us in the second Ice Age block, which would be adding, I think, 2 difficulty per rather than 2 billion difficulty per.
$4 million back relative to to now, but it pushes it back 9 million from the beginning of the chain. Or as far as the fake block number is concerned in the difficulty calculation.
It's essentially like we're starting over block 200,000 if we go to set the fake block at 9 million.
Yeah, that's a better way of saying it. Is there any other thoughts on should that number be differently? Like, should we try to push that back further, or should we have it be 8 million, 9 million? If we could have it further back, is it better? I think this gives us at least a year and a half before the next ones show up. We've already had some discussions on Gitter as well, so if there aren't any more thoughts on this, then we should just accept 9 million, I would say.
Works for me.
All right, so then we'll push it back 9 million. As far as Eric's EIP 2384 is concerned, we should. Does this mean that means we should move this into accepted, right? Or we should move it to be such, or eligible for inclusion?
I would say we can move it to accepted, I think. What Alex and others, what do you think?
It would be nice to have a block number 2.
Yeah, that's right. Let's not move it into accepted until we have a block number.
Okay, we'll do that at the end of the call then.
Is this a good time to maybe bring up the other question of which was raised on the channel, that some of the even Istanbul EIPs, they're still in draft, and whether they should be just marked final or go through the last call. I guess it's a similar question, which applies to the Ice Age stuff.
Yeah, I think they're pretty much final. I mean, there's nobody's going to change them, so.
Yeah, that's kind of the argument I made with Will, who brought this up. And I think what we came to from that conversation is that switching them to last call would be doing process for the sake of process, or I should say that's not what we came to the conclusion of. That's what I came to the conclusion of for my personal opinion on that. So it would just be doing a lot of PR changing, and I mean, it would open up a vector for someone to stop the process, really, but I doubt that would happen at this stage in Ethereum. That is a risk, though, but I think process for the sake of process is stupid.
So his argument was that the last call is in this very special position on the EIP repo for one single reason, that there is an RSS feed on eipethereum.org for the last call EIPs only. There was a proposal to extend that feed, to have separate feeds for each of the statuses, but the only one which exists is for last call. And his argument was that if something is moved into last call, that's going to show up in the RSS feed, and maybe some new people gonna be notified about it, and they could find some issue this late in the process. I'm just replying or proxying his argument.
That's not a bad point. What do others think?
So that made sense a month ago.
Yeah, and historically core EIPs haven't gone through the last call process. I don't know if that was meant to happen or if it just sort of happened. And the new EIPs, the eligibility for inclusion, having the RSS feed, like a better way of doing what last call's trying to do, I would say, is having the RSS feed pull EIPs that are marked as eligible for inclusion, so community members know to look at those, as the core devs have already looked at them and taken that seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it'd be easy to do last call and then switch it to final, really. So I just have only heard one person who wants it, really. So that's kind of where I'm like not as enthusiastic about changing it.
We could
I
certainly.
mean, seriously, it absolutely does not matter. Just whoever is an editor, just do whatever you want and it's fine.
Yeah. I think maybe Will did a PR for it. I'll have to check.
So generally, I think it would be a good idea to maybe do this last call even for core hard fork EIPs, because if it gives us a chance to reach out to more people, that's always good. But in this particular case, I'm not sure it's going to make any difference if you're talking about putting it into last call for a few days, because then we need to mark it final. I'm not sure if there's any possibility to get any result out of this. But as an editor, I'm happy just to mark it last call and then mark it final.
I'd say don't bother.
But if you do, I mean, that's pretty nice. Then it will pop up in the feed, and then it will become final. That's pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that from a process perspective, that looks nice, and from a letting people know, that looks nice. I actually don't have a strong opinion on it. So, Alex, if you don't mind doing that, I guess we can. It's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, I can do that. I guess the only remaining question that is, the only one he marked as last call is the gas reduction for the call data bytes. And everything else is marked final already. So yeah, I don't think it will be and pragmatically, we would need to mark all of them last call just so that it shows up, and then mark all of them final.
That's something you can do, or is that something the champions or authors have to do?
I can do it if we agree that it's a good gesture, and maybe next time we're gonna follow the last call process. That's gonna
Yeah.
be more useful, but we could even do it right now, just to give the chance.
Okay, we can do it right now. Anybody else on this one?
We could certainly do it for 2384 and 2387 as well, just as from moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good idea, especially once we have the block number.
So for 2387, there is actually a block number proposed, isn't there?
Yeah.
Do we want to discuss that now, or just go with it?
Yes, we should discuss it because the block number written is 9,200,000, which is the next time the difficulty bomb increments, which should be first week of January 5th or 6th or so. The last bump just happened not too long ago. And let me see, I'm just looking at my notes right here. So if we did for 9,200,000, that is right before block time should be hitting 25-30 seconds, which should be is in quotes because I don't know exactly what the next increment will be. It could be at some point the block times start doubling, but I'm not sure if we've hit that point yet. Right now, it's about 15-second block times from looking at the Etherscan. So we kind of have two options. Either we could go straight for when the next increment happens, which is January 6th-ish, or we could push it a few weeks into the next, or a week or so into the next period for the Ice Age, and just have the network be a bit slower for that week. Does anyone have strong feelings either direction?
I think the 6th sounds nice. I don't see why we should do it for, like, delay it an extra week unless people think there's a chance of non-adoption.
It certainly would be nice to get it in before the next bump. As far as community is concerned, balanced with making sure that it gets adopted sufficiently before that time, which that's 5 weeks from today-ish, 5 weeks, yeah.
It sounds like people are good with whatever.
Yep, I'm hearing like 9.2 is okay. If anyone has strong opinions otherwise, or weak support otherwise.
I support it.
Thank you, Martin.
I support Martin.
Okay, now we're good to go. So let's agree on 9.2 as the block number, and also include that it gets pushed back the 9 million blocks,
I may have missed the first half of the call. Just to confirm, there's agreement that the Ice Age is its own hard fork called the Mountain Glacier, and Berlin is going to happen afterwards.
Oh yeah, we haven't discussed the name yet, or that didn't come up.
But since we're talking about 2387, it really seems to be, it's not Berlin, it's something else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I would
So-
support that it should be considered something else, because from a narrative perspective, it is something different than we had expected.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree there. And I guess just to be explicit, we should move this to last call as well, right? Like it seems like there's no strong objections against any of the numbers.
At least a question on that. It has to be defined for the other test nets. I guess only Robston is the one which could be added. The others are not using. Well, yeah, the POA, so they don't need this. But do we need to set block numbers there?
No. Well, actually, there's an interesting question. I would. So what we need to decide is that is this hard fork, does this exist, so to say, for the other networks, or it does not? I would say it does not. The reason I'm specifically want to spill it out is because we have at least we have this fork ID thing that we created a while ago, which tracks which forks are applied at which blocks, and that means that if we apply a no-op fork on Rinkeby, for example, that does not do anything, then even though functionally the network is the same as before, the fork ID will change because it thinks that something was upgraded. So my suggestion is to explicitly spell it out that this fork does not happen on the POA networks.
So there's a
Right.
different count of blocks on the POA networks, forks on POA networks than there is on mainnet?
POA networks don't have difficulty.
Right, but I'm just thinking for forward when we go to Berlin, do we presume the validation would happen with Berlin on the POA networks, or do they have a different count of fork blocks?
I'm not following. So what's the question?
So this fork identifier, you put in the numbers of the fork sequentially. So there's going to be one more fork in mainnet than there would be in the other ones, because I think what we did with the other ones is we just said that they wrap together at the same point. You don't fork it in twice. I don't know that that's reflected in the test scripts. I'll need to check the EIP.
No, so the fork ID only cares about the numbers when some fork happens. If a fork doesn't happen, then that's fine. So the networks don't have to have the same number of forks. You can have arbitrarily different forks on different networks.
But I mean, we still have Rinkeby though.
Yeah.
Robson, you mean?
Sorry, Robson, yeah.
Yeah. So I can add, as I just marked down of adding that the POA test nets can explicitly don't need this, but we still do need to decide about Robston.
And Robston has previously applied the exact same adjustments, right? Fake difficulty, fake block number adjustments as mainnet. I think so.
Right, so we're not going to get the same value testing as we would other changes because it's going to go to 0, or if the clients have implemented poorly a negative ice age period.
Yeah.
Say that last part again, Dano.
So if the clients haven't implemented properly the difficulty calculation, it floors at 0, and they take the max value of the period, so it would be 0. If we go to block 9 million for a few million blocks on Robston. So there are test cases that cover this that Martin put together to make sure everything's 0 below then. But if, the concern of why we didn't just do block 50 billion for the ice age was we were concerned that some clients might not have that floor in correctly and accidentally go negative. It was a hedge against risk.
So what I'm hearing is Robston it has different block heights, so that the same number could have a different effect if they didn't implement the clients correctly.
Yeah, so the thing is, if we activate on Robston now, which is, I don't know, 6 million, then and the fake block number is minus 9 million, then we hit the floor, which should be fine. And I guess it has happened previously when you did the previous changes.
So in the 21-24 test cases, it had Petersburg going in at the same time as Istanbul, it looks like. Well, first last. Yeah, it had a 0 length block length for these for what was calculated for those.
We could also just use a block number on Robston that's different than the 9 million. That just pushes it back to the same starting 200,000 block. Or not.
Not.
I would vote against having a different block number, because then all of a sudden that means that the fork, so the fork is not only defined by its own block number, rather it also has a parameter. And then, for example, Geth does not have a capability to configure parameters for forks. And I don't want to add it. And I don't special case Robston so that it looks at which fork, which network, and then do something. So I would rather if we keep it dumb and simple.
Yeah.
Okay, so the EIP will be the same, but it's just a matter of choosing a block height to implement D.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. I mean, since we're not going to get any test coverage from the Robston rollout, we don't actually have to bother to make sure that it happens, I don't know, 3 weeks before the mainnet one, because it won't give us anything anyway. So we can just spit out some number that sounds good.
We could just skip it and do it with Berlin.
Does that make things easier?
A whole lot easier.
Wouldn't that mean that we change the final EIP with the block number when we have the block number for Berlin, or does that mean that this EIP is not final until then?
I actually don't think it makes it simpler, because another dissonance between what the forks are on mainnet and the testnet. We already have one with Petersburg and Constantinople, and why intentionally add another one where we have a split up in 2 phases on mainnet, and we have it lumped together on Robston?
So I don't know enough about Robson, but we could potentially roll out something this next week. Is that what is possible, or people are thinking?
I mean, we need to release client as well.
Yeah, release. So we can release Robston and the client at the same time.
Well, people need to have a little bit of time to update. We can
So I would kind of argue that if you want to release something on Robston too, then let's pick a block number that's about a month at least out. There's absolutely no value from a testing perspective, but there's no point to break people's test network just because we want to. So let's try to keep it a bit stable.
Sorry, I was cut off. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I don't hear you now if you're talking, though.
No, I'm not talking. Where did we wind up? Can we decide on a block number for Robson as well? So it's at 6.8 million, 6.87 million right now.
So doing the math, what would end of December be for that? or like January 1st or 2nd?
Why is it important to be January the 1st or 2nd?
It would be a week before, I guess, Mountain Glacier would happen.
Well, yeah, but we know that it doesn't matter. It doesn't have a value. And I mean, you don't want to fork on New Year's Eve, because I'm sure there will be somebody using Grobson for something. And at least I won't be available to tell people that they need to update or how to fix it.
Okay, so we can target the same time period then.
Yeah, probably makes sense.
So I can go back and do we need to do the number? I guess it would make sense to do the number right now. So what would, for January 6th then?
RobsonStats.parity.io shows that there is 13.23 seconds per block right now.
So I haven't, while you're calculating, I haven't heard anything from Parity. Wei, are you guys on board with this?
Sorry for the SH, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but so the block number is 9.2 million, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. We are on it.
$39 days. As far as the name goes for Alex's thing, we should have a discussion on that as well. I just put that in as a name. I saw your point on the using something like Muir Glacier, or something that an ice age that has a glacier that has been receding. So I'd like to bring up the topic of name for a moment while I'm calculating.
Yeah. Does anyone have any differing suggestion?
What's the receding one? Mirrored?
What was the question, Hudson?
Oh, sorry. When someone else suggested, I think I heard mirrored or mirrored. Like, how do you spell that? The second name suggestion.
I believe it was Alex said.
MUIR. It's a glacier in Alaska we have photographic evidence that is pulled back all the way from some inlet it's pulled back quite a bit, Deb. That's why they like that one for global warming talk.
Oh. Oh, cool. This could be kind of a political thing. I'm joking.
The melting glacier.
Did you have any more thoughts on that, Alex? I know that you had brought that up. You had written a suggestion, so I wanted to make sure that was heard by the group.
Yeah, it's not all that important. I just like the idea naming it after a receding glacier, because that's what we're trying to do here. But it's really not that important that we should spend hours on this.
I like that name personally.
That name being?
Oh, well, actually thinking about it a little more, Muir Glacier, will people be confused how to pronounce that? That might be the only thing. But that might not matter either. Let me see what yours, what'd you call yours?
Mountain Glacier.
James? Mountain Glacier?
What was the target date of Robson again, really quick?
January 6th, the Monday. I'm doing. Yeah, January 6th is the first Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with any name.
Let's do Mere Glacier because it actually has a meaning, and that'll be neat to talk about in the future. Anybody else have an opinion?
Is it being politically charged something we want to have be a part of this?
Let me see the Wikipedia page to see if it's like actually, well, I don't see anything political on the Wikipedia page.
I mean, global warming is pretty political, I guess I'll say.
Yeah. I
It's
don't
not
think
political. It's actually scientific.
All
Just
right.
America, you think it's political.
Right.
That's so true.
So I'm concerned about the discourse that might go on later when we talk about delaying the difficulty bomb or eliminating it. People who want to eliminate it, they call it climate change deniers because it's going to blow up. And I'm just accused about secondary name calling that would go on with it.
Yeah, especially since we're giving ideas on this call. Let's go with the original one then. I'm only making decisions because no one else is.
I'm trying to do math and talk at the same time, which hasn't worked out quite well. Has anyone else got a block number for the January 6th? I got somehow 6,500, which is not a number that's possible.
It's just multiplication, right?
39 days from now.
What's the Robson block time?
13.2. I got 255,000 blocks from now.
My vote is for Mirror Glacier.
All right, I'm good with that. And Paul says good name. I don't know which one for.
Mirror Glacier.
Mere Glacier.
I mean, you
Okay.
commented on my comment.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, I will update the EIP for that.
Wait, don't you just multiply the block time by the number of blocks and then add that to the current block number?
Do we want it literally to happen at the same time as mainnet?
I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly the date, but we can to estimate it toward the exact date, sure.
I did the Monday before, just so it would at least roll out before.
Oh, on the 5th? Okay.
Variable block numbers on Robson are really unstable, so I don't think it makes much of a difference which date we aim at. It's going to be on something else anyway.
How about
agree.
9284829 on my spreadsheet? It's going to happen at 13.25 on 1/6 at 11/19 at 13.5. On 1/7 at 2016 at 14. It'll happen on 1/10 at 4/10.
So what was the block number?
9284829.
Wait. What do you mean 9-2? We're at block 6 million now.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. Did I pick the wrong? Oh, my goodness. It's early. I should have taken the day off.
Oh, man.
Good catch.
Yeah, no, I mean, we have the mainnet number, and that's the big important one. Let's just do the Robson on Gitter.
Agreed.
Yeah, my suggestion is 7171717. Somebody calculate what's the date.
I'll go back and check that. We'll call that good for now.
Okay. Cool. Was there anything else with the Ice Age? Where's my agenda? Okay, so we're deciding Robson fork on Gitter, right?
Yep.
We got the name, we got the mainnet stuff, and so we can start sending out emails for that. Okay. Anything else on Ice Age?
I had it included included in the EIP a how do you say it, like a declaration of intention to fix part of what's happening. So either to make it something that's easy to model, to effective the network, and easy to predict when it occurs. So I think that's something we should look at as a group in the next few months or so. I felt it was important to include, so as a response of, hey, the block times are getting long, what are we going to do about it for next time?
Let's see.
It's at the bottom of the EIP. I don't think
Oh.
we need to go into it now.
Okay, we could talk about it on Gitter.
Yep, but I did want to note that that is also in there.
Okay. Next up, we have testing updates. Dimitri or anyone else, do you have a testing update?
Hello. Yeah, I would suggest to update with the test develop branch and see there are some new test sets, so better to run the test from the develop branch, not from the release. Also there is a file in a test repo called peer log, so you could see what are the recent updates with the pull request done to the repo. So see, maybe there was some new test added. You could run, for example, there was a new key wallet test, and also key store test for my crypto file, and some difficulty test added recently. So just check the peerlog.imd file and develop branch of the test repo. Okay.
Sounds good to me. Anybody else?
Yes. So as I wrote in the old core dev channel, we now have 4 EVMs up on fuzzing, and I just checked, and it's done 435,000 executions. So that's ParityGeth and Aleph and Nethermind, who has all implemented this standard JSON output and tracing. So they can run state tests and output traces, which are then compared between each other every step of the execution. So the stack values are compared, not the memory contents, but the stack values and the operations and the gas counters and the resulting state root that the tests result in. So I think we have pretty good coverage. And the fuzzer that I'm running now is particularly aiming at S-store and S-load. And does a lot of calls and suicides and calls back between, and does creation of contracts and calls them and S-stores, and does a lot of weird things. That's about it from the fuzz testing.
Anybody else?
Can you post a link to that documentation on how to get on that in the call notes?
Sorry, post again what?
How to get into the fuzz testing, what needs to be done, documentation. Is this the Hive stuff or is it something else?
This is something else. And yes, I can update and post. It's posted somewhere, but I think it needs to be updated. So I can revise that and post it.
And we can edit the call notes after the fact, Dano. If you want that in there, we can get it from Martin. All right, I think that's about it for testing. The next topic, let's see. Eligibility for inclusion, EIP review. I don't think there's any that we're going over today. Let's look though. Do you know of any that are that we need to talk about today, James?
No, nope, we're good.
Okay. The Ethereum improvement proposal, the IP meeting hasn't happened yet. I was waiting until we had the Ethereum cat herder call to talk about what we were going to do more, and we had that call on Tuesday. So I'll try to plan for the meeting as soon as I can plan for it, but then the date for that will be out a little bit. Thanksgiving happened, so I got distracted. And so, yeah, I'll be doing that soon. And then review previous decisions and action items from the call. Looks like EIP 2348 is first call, not eligible for inclusion, and EIP 1803 is eligible for inclusion and last call. Oh, 1803 was last call? That's the one that was like a really simple one, right? Let me look it up. Yeah, rename opcodes for clarity. So it's been 2 weeks. Does anyone have any anything on that?
I added 8 new suggestions to it on the Magician's discussion URL.
Okay. Would you like to restart the last call process then, or do you think it's pretty clear that people are fine with this?
I don't think anyone looked at it. It was only added a day ago or 2.
Okay, we can wait 2 more weeks then, I'd say.
Yeah, I would say restart the clock.
Okay. So make note to check on that if you care about it. It's in the Magician's thread for EIP 1803. So I can post that link in Zoom. Wait, where's Zoom? Here we go. Also, Alex, you asked if 2834 was accepted. Yes, it was accepted. Am I right on that, James?
2834.
Yep.
Are you saying 2384?
Yeah, the pump delay specification. Was it accepted as is, or are there any changes required?
There weren't any changes. We should go, I'd say we as a group officially move 2387 and 2384 to last call. Or I motioned that, unless you had something on 2384, Alex, that we hadn't gone over.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah, so I would motion that we move those into last call and then have the date that the clients are released be when we update it to final.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we should do it that way.
So I
So
motion
this one, 2384, it's already been merged. So any comments that are made, should we do that on the original or comment on the forum? Just some nitpicks I have.
I would say the discussion URL is where everything should go after merge.
Thank you.
Okay. That is the last decision and thing to go over right now. So that's done. There's no other agenda items. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to bring up or say? Uh, 2 weeks from now will be December 13th, and we'll have a meeting then, and then we probably will skip the meeting after that because it'll be Christmas week. Unless we really want to have a meeting on the 27th, that kind of depends on what you all want to do, but some people will be traveling, I know. And we can just be thinking about that. We can decide that next meeting. And I I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody. Sorry
Okay,
about the
Tim.
live stream issues.
That's okay, Tim. It happens.